Welcome to S&P's Why Not Us, the podcast that can do the math of 12 Mets losses in a row and 2 Knick playoff defeats by a single point, and somehow still keep coming back with an optimistic take. I'm your co-host, Scott Greenhut, and on the other side of the bike, someone I met in 1973, which is incidentally the last time the Knicks won the title, Peter Olczyk.
Hello, great to be here. Do hear some new fans. It's great to have them as well.
Thank you. Welcome, fans.
And not sure if you know this, today is actually National Telephone Day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a day for everything.
I was kind of some fun research there. What does National Telephone Day mean to you?
Telephone invented 150 years ago, and it's still wildly common to ask, can you hear me now? Alexander Graham Bell probably rolls over in his grave each time he hears that, which is a lot of rolling. Here's my fun fact on Telephone Day. By 2007, Americans actually texted more than they used the phone for phones, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I know you're fairly traditional, old school when it comes to technology, but I think you'll be able to answer this basic quiz question.
Oh, no.
What happened in 2007 that changed the game?
2007.
New product came out. It's a big deal.
iPhone?
Yeah.
Nice.
Bam.
All right. Well, I'm glad I got the iPhone question right. I had just a couple of things on National Telephone Day for me. First of all, fourth grade book report, Alexander Graham Bell. I would love to be able to unearth that one. Maybe it's
like
still
the
around.
Viking ship.
Right. That one I have. This one I'd love to have, but that's definitely true. And the second thing is the Snoopy phone, my treasured Snoopy phone that I actually took a picture of just because apparently on eBay you can get quite a few of these things. I saw it in the closet a couple of years ago, took it out, cleaned it up, got the dust off, put it back in. It's still there. But I was thinking, since I am a huge Snoopy fan, I thought maybe sometime this summer we might have some fun and do a little P.S., Ode to Snoopy, Ode to Peanuts, Charles M. Schultz, have some fun with it. So, yeah, those are my two.
It's fantastic, and I actually recommend you making it work. Getting a landline attached to it, I can help you with that.
Okay, that sounds like a fun project.
There you go.
All right, and with that, let's get into some of the sports stuff. So on today's episode, we'll drop in on the first round of the NBA playoffs. We're going to pick our favorite non-Knick NBA player growing up. But we're kicking things off today with the spectacle that is the NFL draft. And wow, what a fun, exciting Thursday night it was across the league, our teams as well, and into last night, Friday. And as the draft rounds out today, how do you want to start in NFL draft?
Yeah, I want to start here. Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
Turned down $6.5 million to stay in college. That's what Miami was going to pay him. You do the portal. Yeah, he was going to portal over. Reportedly, that was what he was going to get. Instead, he walked away, came out early, despite an injury-plagued 2025. And needless to say, this gamble paid off. Going 13 to the Rams. He's going to start off on the sideline and learn some things, and then we'll see how he does. But number 13, quite impressive.
Well, since you started off with Ty, just one thing on that. On the coverage, pretty astute cut-in by ESPN, literally as they were going to break, with sort of showing Ty in the green room there, smiling, happy. He did not know about this ahead of time, and that's been sort of reported and told afterwards. But he did seem extremely content. So I would say a nice job by ESPN with the actual shocking news literally right after the break. And also to your point, having Matthew Stafford, what could be a better position for this quarterback in terms of tutelage over the next year or two? So, yeah, great spot for Ty Simpson.
Yeah. And then for me, my other take from day one of the draft, Jordan Tyson, quiet, big story. came in with the injury questions, missed multiple games in each of his 4 college seasons, but teams couldn't ignore the talent. So his grade went up significantly, ended up going to the Saints. It was quite emotional. Any thoughts on Jordan or other day one?
Yeah, no, just another TV coverage thing from day one. 2 in-division trades. This is amazing. Dallas and Philly making a trade, which has then Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver from USC. Philly jumps up to make this deal while he's on the phone with Pittsburgh, who had no idea, didn't expect that since Dallas was going to be going defense, that this would be an issue. And then that happens, and he goes to Philly. And then the Pats and the Bills also make it in,
Right. It's
an
breaking all
in-division
the
trade.
unwritten laws. You can't do this.
I'm pretty sure the Jets and the Pats will not be making a draft day deal anytime in the future. But if and when that does happen, yeah,
You'll know what kind of broke the seal.
yeah. So that was from the first night. We should definitely take a quick touch on our teams from the first night. So of course the Jets were on the clock from the get-go. David Bailey goes 2. As I think I mentioned when we first talked about the draft a month or so ago, I was perfectly happy with kind of either way that we would go at, at edge or edge linebacker. And then that works its way to Arvell for you. So what was that like as the draft played out there?
Yeah, so that one became the no-brainer pick, I think. It was just a matter of which of those guys fell. And so that seemed easy, although with the Giants over the last decade, nothing seems easy. So happy they got that one right. Mixed feelings on 10. Francis Maui Manoa, I believe. I did my best. I did a YouTube thing. There's a guy from Hawaii. Anyway.
I think he goes by CC, I think I heard on the
That would be
coverage.
even easier. But we do the line, which, look, I'm always about both sides of the line. I'm consistent on that point. And at the same time, Caleb Downs, the can't miss safety, I kind of wanted him. Giants defense was abysmal last year, and the fact that he ended up going to the rival Cowboys hurts even a little more. But I'm not going to crush them on this pick, and they did a secondary thing shortly after. So all in all, quite happy with round 1.
Listen, as a Jets fan, and I imagine as fellow Jets fans would really have to say, this was a great couple of days for my team. The starting with David Bailey, getting a very athletic, tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. So that's where it's sort of the potential over the production. The first pick was production over potential. Omar Cooper Jr., Indiana, we've all seen his catch. And, it's just a great person to have in the wide receiver room. And then, of course, the second round pick, an undersized cornerback. Aaron, this is absolutely Aaron Glenn's guy, D'Angelo Pons. So certainly looking forward to kind of seeing us build him up and have him be a key part of the team. Even into the 4th round as we move up, defensive tackle, and then, a quarterback project in Cade Klubnik from Clemson. So big picture, this team got a lot better in the last 2 days or so, which sort of leads me into, I thought we would do a couple of wishes today. And I just wanted to preface it by saying realistic wishes. You have a little lantern trinket by you.
Yeah, let me give it the proper rub. I think that's required.
I think if you just open it, I think
well,
that might do
I'm
it.
going to rub, and now I'm
Okay.
opening.
Okay. Great. All right. So now we're ready for, again, 2 realistic wishes, and we'll start with football. For the Jets, mine is extremely simple. I'd like to see at least 7 wins next year. I want to see this team actually starting to win football games, have a winning mindset. The roster got a lot better, and work our way to actually having a functional, positive locker room, fan base, the whole thing. The arrows really do seem to be pointing up. There is no reason, not even with me going through the schedule, which I didn't do, to get at least 7 wins.
And let the podcast record reflect you are sporting your Jets tee today.
Absolutely.
I think, in support of your team. My Giants wish, I'm cheating and doing two. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I think it's symmetrical. So wish one is that the defensive front lives up to its potential. Okay. Now we took this guy, Reese at 5. We've got Thibodeau, who's not going anywhere. We have Abdul Carter. We've got the guys. Even with Sexy Dexy moving on, I think they're stacked. They just need to live up to their potential and harass the quarterback. And then on the other side of the ball, my wish is that Malachi Fields, who we moved up at receiver to take number 3. We did a couple trades to get into better position, gives Jackson Dart and Malik Neighbors enough ammo to raise the level of the offense. Combined, of course, with the draft pick that we took to solidify the line.
That sounds fair. I thought, all right, so those wishes are both realistic, I think.
I think it's realistic.
You had 2, but they were both realistic, so it's fine.
Thank you.
So I thought we would just zoom out a little bit on the draft. When you watch it on TV and you sort of just see it's been in Pittsburgh, which has just been great to look at the crowd. It's a pure spectacle now. Peter Schrager from ESPN said the other day, "It's reality TV at its finest." I thought that was a good line.
Yes.
But I also
did you hear the numbers?
Yeah. So we basically have Thursday and Friday. We're over 570,000 people. The places was packed. Last year, I think the whole thing in Green Bay was over 600,000, so they're going to blow by that.
They're going to blow by that. They blew by day one, 300 for the stats that I saw. It doesn't matter, right? Who cares? But like 320,000 fans.
Yep, and the 250 I saw last night. So
right,
there you go.
And the draft theater hit capacity by 8 p.m. So the fans had to spill over to what was Heinz Field and then Point State Park. They had to impromptu that, I heard.
Very nice. And I would just say, as I'm thinking from a fan, this is the perfect weekend getaway for a fan, a group of fans. It's a fandom melting pot. You see all their uniforms. Every team is represented.
And they're all optimistic.
Your team hasn't lost. You could go into a establishment and over a cold one, enjoy each other's conversation, needle whatever, but there's no loss at the end of the weekend. And it's reasonable, as opposed to following your team to go to a playoff game or something where it could just be, expenses could be cumbersome. This is what my thought was over the last couple of days, watching what a wonderful thing. And rotating cities, by the way, since 2017, rotational cities starting with Chicago, 15 and 16. It was in New York forever. But the NFL, no surprise, just a great job on making this a spectacle.
Yes, and just one last comment, which I thought was hilarious. Heinz gave the 57th overall pick, Logan Jones from the Bears, a lifetime supply of ketchup. Gave him Mr. 57, gave him a customized jacket. So
I love that.
Best draft moment, I think that's gone a little bit under the radar. Good job, Heinz.
Love that.
All right, so we're going to take a little bit of a transition and move from the league to the association. What do you got in terms of round 1 NBA observations?
Yeah, so I just wanted to start out west for a little bit. Nikola Jokic, first of all, his season this year, he led the league in rebounds and assists. That actually hasn't happened since Wilt days in terms of, from an average perspective. So he easily, in any other year, could be an MVP and a deserving MVP, and he's in the top 3, and he'll either be 2 or 3. Yeah. All that said, so far in the series, which you had actually pegged Minnesota as the winner in this one, it's a down series for him so far. Rudy Gobert is doing a pretty nice job. I haven't been able to see too much. I will watch tonight. 40% overall from the field, 20% from 3. These are not Jokic-like stats. So I am very curious to see in terms of adjustments, however you like, as this series keeps going on, it'll probably be a long one, how this continues to play out because, he's still at the top of his game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for me, I was kind of the guy hopping straight to OKC, San Antonio. OKC looks like that should work. Everything's going great for them. The San Antonio piece with Wemby, concussion. Just concussions worry me a lot. Obviously,
Same.
I'm a huge hockey fan, and like they're
And
like they.
I'm a baseball dad, so
So
I've
there
seen
you
a lot.
go. Like that's the hidden thing. Like, and you can't fake it. Obviously, there's protocol number one, but also like number two, it's like when you're dizzy and disoriented, you're just not the same person. So, here's hoping he comes back because then I'd love to see that series with everyone going at full steam. Maybe we can flip over to the East, and I guess for me, Cleveland. Cleveland's a team nobody, was that much talking
Yeah.
about as the playoffs started. And Mitchell, Hart, and Mobley all shooting over 50% from the field in game two. They're steamrolling Toronto. The round mound of rebound, Charles Barkley actually predicts them to go to the finals.
When did he say that?
He said it on a recent show
Okay.
with Ernie and the boys.
Okay. Okay. Um, no, what Harden does in the playoffs, as always, is interesting, theater. So that team is definitely could be competitive if they get their best performance, I think, specifically from him. In the East, my eyes are on Jason Tatum. I can't believe that it still hasn't been a year. It's like 2 weeks or so until it's a year from the Achilles tear against the Knicks last year. And just watching some of the highlights from last night, this version of Jason Tatum is pretty much the version that is an MVP caliber player. So all of the work that he obviously has done from the rehab and it's been talked about, but still to play over 40 minutes in the playoffs, which is a whole other level
Yeah.
of energy and the work that it takes and what goes on in the game, I am extremely impressed by Jason Tatum, and we will see as we touch on our Knicks in a second, whether we see him up close in that matchup. On the
Yeah,
Knicks,
I'll let you go.
let me just start by saying here's a stat that tends to come up after game threes. So, do you know the percentage?
I do.
Yeah. So 74% of the time,
Right.
the team that wins game three in a 7-game series across all NBA playoffs, so that's a pretty big sample size,
Yeah.
goes on to win the series.
Right.
So the Knicks are on the wrong end of that as we head into tonight's game four. And I'll jump into my wish. I wanted to do 2 wishes today. I thought 3 would be greedy.
Oh,
Yeah, so here is my second wish. It's Knicks related. Again, it's pretty simple. I want to see much stronger winning starts of game. The first 6 minutes, if you will. It's not just the other day. This has been a trend, especially against good teams for a good part of the year. The talent level is absolutely there to be playing not just competitive first quarters, but actual winning first quarters and not being down 7 or 8 points for 6 minutes, because then the mental part comes into it a little bit. So it's maddening, to pick a word of that. That is my Nick wish.
it's a good wish. Makes me look at our coach a little bit, but anyway, let's not go there. And, Mikhail Bridges, it would be nice if he showed up just even a little bit for us. I feel like that would have just tilted this whole thing. But let's see what tonight brings. Big game.
Can I just say one thing on Mikal Bridges?
You can say even 2 if you got it.
This is a player who has the longest active streak in games played and really takes his body seriously. In the world of load management these days, this is more impossible than ever. So I always give him such a long rope and am so impressed by his ability to do this and be able to manage himself in games. Not, of course, your point in terms of you'd love to see a little bit more early on, maybe being less passive, having some success, but I am such an overall Mikal Bridges fan for that, because it's something else.
So let's move on to the next segment, I think.
Lightning?
Let's do a little lightning round.
I have the first one.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about Ohtani, who I touched on, I think, when we just did our first little bit of the baseball preview, on the pitching side of things. So on the pitching side of things so far, it has been so far show very good on his Cy Young quest. He's got 4 starts. His first one was on a Tuesday. Then he followed up with 3 Wednesdays. So you sort of see what they've been tracking so far. 24 innings, 1 earned run, 25 Ks, 6 walks. So those are the stats. But, he's come out healthy so far. And per his manager, Dave Roberts, who just has such a great pulse of that dugout. And maybe another time I'll talk a little bit more about Dave Roberts. But just, it's going to be fluid in terms of his hitting on his pitching days. Will he still lead off? Would he potentially be moved down in the order? Would he be out of the lineup? He was out of the lineup the last time. So I'm just curious to watch, as we talked about, that this is actually important to Shohei this year. This has been kind of a goal in Cy Young, and he really would need to stay on roughly, a 7 to 10 day regular program and stay healthy to be continuing to be in consideration. And of course, Paul Skeens isn't going anywhere. He literally had a perfect game through into the bottom of the fifth last night, I think. So that's my Ohtani. So your Lightning is hockey. The NHL playoffs is also going on as we speak, first round. You had a couple of players you wanted to highlight.
Quick hits from hockey, one East, one West. From the East, you got Tage Thompson from the Buffalo Sabres. Sabres, great story, ended a 14-year playoff drought, which was the longest in NHL history. Longest current one. Thompson scored 40 goals this year. He helped Team USA win the Olympic gold in Italy. Right. He's the emotional engine of the team. Buffalo currently leading the Bruins 2-1 in round 1. Out west, I'm going more predictable. Nathan MacKinnon from the Avalanche. He led the NHL in goals and points this year. Their Avs are currently Stanley Cup favorites at plus 300. They're currently dominating the LA Kings on the verge of a sweep. And he already has 1 cup and is chasing his second and looking super strong early. So keep an eye on Nathan MacKinnon's quest for number 2.
Yep, got it. All right, our last Lightning. I had a thought this week where I thought it would be fun to go back to our favorite NBA player that was not a Knick growing up. And I will let you lead off.
First of all, I'm happy to lead off. It'll also be hilarious if we end up picking the same guy, but probably statistically unlikely. Okay, I picked James Worthy, the ultimate winners player, 3 championships with the Showtime Lakers, Finals MVP in 1988. One of those championships was over the Celtics, so easy for me to kind of get a little bit on the James Worthy bandwagon since he was out west and not competing directly with the Knicks. Never needed to be the guy, just always was the right guy. The 85 Celtics win, probably the sweetest of his 3, and also took down the Pistons in 88. Big Game James wasn't a nickname they gave him. It was one he earned.
Okay. Of course, we're very close. But we're not the same. But I won't repeat what you said. But my guy growing up outside of the Knicks was Earvin Magic Johnson. When I first saw him as a player in terms of point guard, shooting guard, power forward. That's how he's actually listed on Basketball Reference. But he instantly redefined what a point guard could be at 6'9". We grew up with so many talented traditional point guards, smaller, great handle, assist first, but could score. But the grace that he had on the court, that's the word I would use. I found him mesmerizing. And as a result, I kind of found the 80s Showtime Lakers pretty mesmerizing. Also, to your points about, of course, we have a little bit of the Celtics rivalry back in the day, and it was a great rivalry with the Knicks. I had forgotten about the 80 NBA Finals, Game 6, where Magic's a rookie. Kareem is hurt.
Right.
And he's playing center.
Doing hook shots.
42 points, 15 boards, 7 assists with the hook in the lane that's, on repeat as it should be all the time.
Real fast. Saw a TikTok clip last night while I was walking the dog. It was an old Letterman clip, and he had Bird and Magic on at the same time. And he just turns to him and goes, Turns to Larry, I guess, first. He goes, "So, which of you two were the better basketball player?"
Yeah.
And Bird does a pause and he gives this funny look and he goes, I'm really all about the championship, so I'm going to have to give it to this guy.
Yeah, and the for anyone who hasn't seen it, the Bird versus Magic, I think that's what it's called. The docuseries is just incredible. There's all sorts of good Celtics and Lakers docuseries if you want to go down those rabbit holes. But yes, all right. So we're going to wrap things up with a little PS where we shift gears, step away from the playing field or the arena. And excuse me, I thought this week we go back to the movies for a triple feature. Pretty specific, a few topics. So the first question for you, you can lead us off, is your favorite buddy comedy? I don't think we need to give any more parameters around that.
Nope. I'll dive right in.
Okay.
Swingers. Most buddy comedies have a buddy relationship that kind of transforms over the course of the movie. That's kind of the way many of them evolve. Trent and Mike, already tight. So the dynamic isn't born in the movie, it's the foundation. Trent running a one-man intervention the entire film because his friend Mikey is paralyzed over breaking up with his ex-girlfriend. So T-Bone's always dragging Mike somewhere in Los Angeles, and it takes him to Vegas. Does whatever he can to cheer him up, and I'll just leave it with this. Most people have several quotes from the film that they'll use a lot. My favorite one requires just a brief setup. Trent and Mike managed to get a double date during their Vegas jaunt, and during said date, Trent tells a 3-minute hilarious and unpredictable story about an audition that went wrong. Mikey knows now it's his turn to say something, and he can only muster, well, we all have stories.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's definitely on our list together for sure. My buddy comedy, Midnight Run.
I knew that would be your pick.
Oh, well, you were correct. This is the perfect chemistry and comedic timing between a playing very against type Robert De Niro as Jack Walsh, bounty hunter, and Charles Grodin, oh my God, plays the Duke, Jonathan the Duke Mardukas, mafia accountant. I'd call it a tour de force. I rewatched it the other night, which is just such a pleasure. If you got to embrace a little bit on the rampant cursing and the smoking, but get beyond that and just enjoy the ride. I could go on and on, but it was wonderful to go back and enjoy the movie, and I can't recommend it high enough.
I think it probably stands as the iconic buddy comedy potentially, but let's move it quickly on to number 2 category, which is best ensemble comedy. Yes?
Yeah, ensemble comedy. Go ahead, kick us off.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off with Best in Show. Best in Show gives you just entire worlds that are super rich with tons of characters. So Christopher Guest wrote it, and with Eugene Levy, a lot of the movie was improvised. Every performer had to live inside of their character on the spot, but the characters are absolutely ridiculous. But the best part is the movie never mocks them. They take them quite seriously. And it's just hilarious from start to finish. Fred Willard does color commentary at the dog show, which is kind of the big finale scene. He clearly knows nothing about dogs. He gets more and more inappropriate as the broadcast goes on. Finally, when the bloodhound enters, he wonders aloud, why don't they put a Sherlock Holmes hat on him with a little pipe in his mouth? And he keeps going, I don't know if you could make it look like smoke's coming out of the pipe. His co-commentator, who has done dog shows for like 30 years, says nothing. There is no response.
Yes. Wonderful selection. Get it?
I'm smiling just thinking about it.
And here was another enjoyable watch that I had this week. Monty Python's Holy Grail. It is still wonderfully ludicrous. It's often hilarious. The characters are believable. It was actually re-released last year in 2025 as the 50th anniversary. I saw something where there was an interview on BBC. So a couple things from the movie. It was independent shoestring. This was, of course, the TV sketch troupe, these guys, Monty Pythons. So they couldn't even afford horses in the movie.
Oh
What did they
wow.
do? That's how they came up with the tapping coconut shells to actually represent the horses. That's one. They lost permission right at the end before they were going to shoot to be at several Scottish castles. So they ended up at just one. It's called Dune Castle, but they shot it from several different angles. You would never know it from watching the movie. It holds up really well. From the little bunny rabbit at the end with the big teeth and sharp claws. What I had forgotten actually was that there was a Trojan rabbit early on with the big ears as well. Probably not a coincidence, but amazing. Monty Python Holy Grail. All right,
Well
one
done.
more.
Yeah, well done. This one I think is just which one we've seen the most.
Either
Partial
in
viewings count.
partial viewings count. Go ahead.
So I had a couple that I probably have 50 or more, but the one that just stood out to me was Meatballs. I mean, constantly on cable. Kind of one of the first Bill Murray showcases.
Yeah.
The plot is literally nothing. You have ragtag camp versus the rich kid. Been done a million times, but not with Bill Murray. Bill Murray has the iconic "it just doesn't matter" speech. And, I'll close with this one. Nice throwaway line. Bill Murray over the camp loudspeaker as everyone is leaving the mess hall. Here is an update on tonight's dinner. It was veal. I repeat, veal. And the winner of tonight's mystery meat contest is Jeffrey Corbin, who guessed some kind of beef.
I have to add, and I think you probably know this one as I'm thinking about that. Of course, one of my favorite lines comes from that when I guess
Parents
the
visit.
dad is there with the car and the son is helping him back it up. Plenty of room, dad. Plenty of room, dad. Bang.
Bang, sorry.
Sorry, dad. So there you go. My most repeated viewings, of course, it's Shawshank Redemption, Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman. Every time that I walk into it, and it hasn't been too much lately, but of course, if you're just still rolling on TBS and TNT, I'm sure they're doing,
Yeah.
repeated viewings,
Yeah,
etc.
it's on cable for sure.
So, now when I watch it, I kind of just look at particular scenes, like the library scene, which was for Brooks when he had it. It went over to Andy, Jake the pet bird. Just every scene, you just feel as though that you're watching something that is it's important. And of course, this is almost like the buddy drama as I was thinking about it. So this may very well be my favorite buddy drama between the relationship between Andy Dufresne and Red. And of course, you talked about hope. I think it was last week, where hope is certainly not a strategy when it comes to sports. But I would say hope is a wonderful thing. And that is something that is always in the back of my mind when I think about Shawshank.
Well put. Well put.
So with that, that's actually it for today. Thank you for listening. Until the next time, I'm Peter Olczyk.
And I'm Scott Greenhut. Make sure to follow S&P's Why Not Us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player so you never miss an episode and find show notes and more. And for now, we'll put this one
In the books.